Friends in Parks and Recreation, we're talking today about high performance agencies. You may want to refer to them as best of class, and either, of course, is fine. Now, there are quite a few park and recreation agencies who have achieved this level of recognition. For a quick reference, just go to and Google, let's just say, the National Gold Medal Awards program, and that's a really good source for seeing the agencies that have achieved that level of recognition. Now, what we know about all of these agencies, every one of them that will be on that list, and more to come, of course, in the future, is that there are several indicators or common denominators that they all share. I'm going to talk about in today's presentation, and then in the next few weeks, at least maybe say 7 or 8 of those indicators that I think are the most important. Now, for today's purposes, I'm going to talk about high performance agencies adopt standards and performance measures to hold themselves accountable. Standards that are carefully selected for their agency and performance measures to hold themselves accountable. Now, for park system maintenance will be our first example. I'm going to talk about recreation program as the second example, and I'm going to talk about organizational capacity for the third example. So number 1, park system maintenance. There's a preventive mode of maintenance which all of us, of course, would like to operate in. That's when we're not responding to emergencies on a regular basis. Therefore, we're operating in a much more comfortable and ability to plan our maintenance on a regular basis. So the standard is to operate at a preventive maintenance mode. And the performance measures, how many times a year are we operating when we're reacting to emergencies, which unfortunately all too many of us have to do because our resources just are not aligned with our things to do. So that's number 1, preventive maintenance. Number 2, our second example has to do with recreation programming. Our standard is to provide a vibrant recreation program for our community. Who does not want to do that, of course? We want a program where participation is high and folks are really excited about being involved with the programs that we have to offer. They love individual health and wellness opportunities. We know is the number 1 thing that folks like above everything else that we offer. So that's our standard. And our performance measure then, though, is how many programs are we offering where that excitement is not the case. There are too many programs in a state of decline, which mean, of course, that people are abandoning our programs. Now, one rule of thumb is that we can safely bring back somewhere between 70 and 90% of our programs each year and feel good about those are still programs that are either growing and or maybe stable within just a few years. In other words, they haven't been stable for 15 or 20 years or something like that. So a vibrant program is the standard. The performance measure then is how many programs are we offering that are in a state of decline. And I say as a rule of thumb, if they're in the state of decline for 2 to 3 years, for an example, they're not likely to rebound. So what we want to do as an agency then is move on to other new program ideas that can attract more folks back into our program. Our third example now today is about organizational capacity. Really, if you like math or if you don't, find someone maybe who does. But in terms of organizational capacity, it has a lot to do with math and quantifying the resources that we have. For example, full-time staff, part-time staff, seasonal staff, equipment, and what number do those resources equate to in terms of resources? And then what is that gap between what we have as resources and that math number that we came up with versus what we're asked to do? We can quantify that. We have to quantify that as well. And if we're asked to do, for example, mowing and trimming and edging and pruning and painting and trash pickup and graffiti removal and helping others during special events, that kind of thing, if that gap between what we're asked to do and the resources we have is manageable, then that's a good thing. All too many agencies, of course, that gap is so wide, there's no way they can be successful. So our standard for organizational capacity then is to work within that range where our resources are aligned with their things to do in a manner that we can provide a level of service. I'd summarize by saying then that carefully select the standards and the performance measures that work well for your agency, that tell the story. If you want to call then maybe a balanced scorecard, I'm thinking is a good way to say it, of then overlaying your standards and performance measures with all of the services that you provide, like I tried to lay out today with maintenance and programming and organizational capacity. If you want to have a balanced scorecard, you really need to do that. And then finally, it's not easy. And we're managing an agency, and it wouldn't be unlike going to school or participating in sports. Managing an agency is very difficult, but if it's worth doing, it's worth doing right. My advice to you would be that if you're already thinking about, as you listen to this conversation, about trying to become known as a high performance agency, I think you're well along the way already. If you're thinking about it, that tells me something about you and what you perceive to be your agency's capabilities. So I would align myself with like-minded folks, key stakeholders in the community, that when they speak, people listen within your own organization, and surround yourself with those people, and then just go down that path. Go down it with a passion. People will come with you with your vision, and then just never give up. Never give up, because it's so worth it once you reach that level of recognition that your entire community will embrace that for many, many years to come. Thanks for listening to this conversation today on high performance agencies. It's presentation number 1, and I hope you join me in the next few weeks as I talk about other indicators of high performance agencies.